Hi, everyone. Pastor Don Smith here. Welcome to the Talk About It podcast, where we take relevant topics with a biblical point of view and we talk about it. You know you want to, and so do I. Let's talk about it. Hi, everyone. Pastor Don here. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2, where we are talking about forgiveness. Listen, man, the comments after the first episode, they're so good, right? I can just tell that you people really want to talk about some topics that I think are controversial sometimes. Forgiveness can be one of those, and last week we just kind of opened up with the topic of forgiveness, what it is, and we're just beginning to define, I believe, what it is. We're going to work through that as we go through the next few episodes, however long it takes. I just want to take a moment and say thank you. Listen, because of you listening, our podcast now actually qualifies or it's got to the point now where it can be monetized. And so if you'd like to become one of those monthly subscribers, you can do it for as little as 99 cents or as much, and you can see that how to do that here at the show notes and all that good stuff. So wow, what a blessing just to watch your feedback and see how many people are listening. It is just absolutely incredible. Today in Season 3, Episode 2 on forgiveness, I want to talk for just a few minutes about what forgiveness is not. And I want to do that right away at the beginning of this conversation, because I think it's very important for us as we define forgiveness to also know what it is not. And I'm going to give you 10 things. I'm going to give you 10 things that I believe it is not. And that's going to be very crucial for us. I want to clarify, if you will, what forgiveness is not. And again, we're taking a topic with a biblical perspective. And so I think this particular aspect of it can be pretty controversial because, when you think about Christianity and the idea of forgiveness and those type of things and turning the other cheek and living like Christ and living in forgiveness, it's hard for us to kind of define boundaries or what that might be or what that looks like, or how do we live in total forgiveness. And I think there are a lot of people in this world that we live in who are suffering greatly spiritually, physically, and emotionally because of unforgiveness. And I don't think that's because they don't want to forgive. I think it's because they don't understand biblically what forgiveness is. And that's what we want to talk about. That's why we want to tackle this on our podcast here for Season 3. So, a few things, right? Like, it's very important to start off with a biblical perspective. In Luke chapter 23, verse 34, then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. And they divided his garments and casted lots. So we know this scene. Jesus is on the cross, and in the midst of people who had hung him on there, he's asking the Father to forgive them. He's asking the Father to forgive those who did these things to him. And but before Jesus ever gets to that point, he had talked a lot about forgiveness and what that looked like. So what we don't have is a healthy, everybody say healthy conversation about what forgiveness is not. That's what we're going to do today. I don't know how long we're going to go. Usually we try to go about 20, 25 minutes, but if it goes a little longer today, I hope it helps you. So let me give you 10 things that forgiveness is not. Number one, forgiveness is not the approval of what someone did. Listen, God never approved of our sin. The Bible teaches us that God actually hates sin. If you read in the Bible, the Garden of Eden there, when Adam sinned, God was angry. Now, that's another subject, and maybe we'll have a conversation in one season about anger. We probably should have a lot of conversations about it, but that's for another season. Today we're talking about forgiveness. In the garden, God was angry about Adam's sin. But, everybody say but. But he still made garments of skin and clothed them. That's in Genesis chapter 3. Also for Adam and his wife, the Lord made tunics of skin and clothed them. See, this was an act of mercy that demonstrated his forgiveness towards them. There had to be a shedding of blood to make those garments. And this signified the sacrifice of blood that would be shed by the Redeemer who was to come. Oh, come on, someone. You see, in the New Testament, Jesus forgave the woman caught in adultery. In John chapter 8, she said, "No, Lord." He says to her, "Where are those who condemn you? And does anyone here condemn you?" She said, "No, Lord." And Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Right? Notice he did not approve of what she did. He told her specifically to leave her sin, to not do that anymore. So God did not approve of sin in biblical times, nor does he approve of sin today. And we've got to keep a respected balance of God's justice and forgiveness if you want to understand what forgiveness really is. Psalms 103:4 says, "Who redeems your life from destruction, who crowns you with loving kindness and tender mercies." Listen, God forgives people without approving of their sin. And we need to understand that forgiving people does not imply an endorsement of their evil deeds. We can forgive what we don't approve of because that is the way God has dealt with each one of us. Wow. So forgiveness is not an approval of what anyone did. Number two, guess what it also is not? It's not excusing what they did. In Numbers chapter 14, Moses, verse 13 there, Moses said to the Lord, "Then the Egyptians will hear of it, for by your might you brought these people out from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of the land. They have heard that you, Lord, are among these people, and that you, Lord, are seen face to face, and your clouds stand above them. And you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Now, if you kill these people as one man, then the nations will have heard of your fame and speak, saying, because the Lord was not able to bring this people out of the land, which he swore to give them, therefore he killed them in the wilderness." Watch what Moses does here. "Now I pray, let the power of my Lord be great, just as you have spoken, saying, the Lord is long-suffering and abundant in mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgressions. But he by no means clears the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. Pardon the iniquity of this people, I pray, according to the greatness of your mercy, just as you have forgiven this people from Egypt even until now." We are not to cover for the sin of other people. You see, forgiveness is not excusing what people did. Never are we to use circumstances to try and explain away bad behavior. See, I believe every person is worth understanding. But trying to understand a person does not ever include excusing inappropriate behavior. Moses was continually aggravated with the complaining of the people as he led them across the desert to the promised land. So after he told God about it, God says, "Okay, let me offer you a new deal." And God says to Moses, basically, this is Pastor Don's translation, this is a sorry bunch of people, and they don't follow you very well. They're stubborn, and they're unteachable, and so I'm going to wipe them out and start over. Wow. Moses was complaining about them, and God said, okay, well, I'll just wipe them out and start over. But Moses rejected the new deal and interceded for the people who were causing him such grief. He didn't excuse their behavior. Instead, I love this portion of scriptures in Numbers 14. He appealed to God's mercy, and what happened? God forgave them. Wow. He didn't excuse what they did. He appealed to God's mercy. What is forgiveness, or what is not forgiveness? Forgiveness is not justifying what someone did. That's number 3. To justify means to make right, or to show to be right or reasonable, right? So there's no way that evil can be justified. God will never call something that is evil right. And neither will he require you and I to do so. That's important in the society that you and I live in. Moses didn't justify the people's actions. Instead, what he did is he pointed out that the Egyptians wouldn't think very highly of God if God killed his own people. And while we are required to forgive, we should never attempt to make what is wrong look right. So forgiveness is not justifying what someone did. Number 4, forgiveness is not pardoning what they did. Now, I use that word very carefully because a pardon is a legal transaction. What it does is it releases an offender from the consequences of their actions. So, the President of the United States can pardon someone, and it's done. It's over with. They're released from the consequences of their actions. So, while the grace of God is for forgiveness, forgiveness does not mean an escape from consequences. You see, we live in a world of consequences. Can you say amen? And that is why we do not ask the guilty rapist to be exempt from punishment. No, he should pay his debt to society, and society should be protected from him. So forgiveness has nothing to do with pardoning a person. What is forgiveness not? It's not reconciliation. Now, that's going to be controversial to some of you people, but listen to me. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. Why, Pastor Don? Because reconciliation requires the participation of two people. Forgiveness only requires the participation of one person. Ooh, that's good. That's good. See, the person you forgive may not want to seek or talk to you. Or the person you forgive, maybe they've passed away and you can't reconcile with them. Or maybe you, who are trying to forgive someone, maybe you don't want to maintain a relationship with the person that you have to forgive. See, reconciliation implies a restoration of relationship. The bitterness and the desire to punish a person may be gone, but the wish to restore things to the way they were may not be there. And you're not required for that. Now, ultimately, absolutely, if that can happen, we would always ask for relationship to be restored. But there are times, situations, and circumstances where that is just not possible. And I am glad, for one, that the Bible requires forgiveness, but not always reconciliation. You see, an injured person can forgive an offender without reconciling. The best case would be always to restore a relationship. The fact is that some things can never be restored. It takes two to reconcile, and there must be a total willingness on both parts. And it's a beautiful thing when it happens. But it's not always possible. Number 6, what is forgiveness not? It's not denying what someone did. You see, some people live in the denial of reality of a bad situation. It's sometimes too painful to face the facts. You see, at times, denial seems to be an easy way out. But I promise you, repression almost always has negative consequences on our mental well-being. You see, we've got to understand that repression can never remove a wound. Pushing it down will almost always cause it to come out another way. Let me say that again. Pushing something down will almost always cause it to be exposed in another way. Total forgiveness is not carried out by repressing the offense. It's not carried out by repressing the offensive event that happened. True forgiveness can only be offered after we have come to terms with reality. So it's never denying what they did. That's not true forgiveness. You know what else true forgiveness is not? It's not blindness to what happened. Some people feel that if they forgive, they're turning a blind eye to it. And that's why a lot of people don't want to forgive. You see, but willful blindness is just a different form of repression. Blindness is a conscious choice to pretend that sin did not take place. The Bible never asks us to do that. Repression is usually unconscious and involuntary, right? And let me tell you something, both are wrong. They keep us from coming to terms with our responsibility in the aspect of forgiveness. You see, the person who has been wounded still has a responsibility in forgiveness. People who do this often become offenders themselves because they're not being true to the pain they originally experienced. Does that make sense? It's people who live in a repressive form often become offenders themselves because they're not being true to the pain the original offense caused. Paul says something very interesting in 1 Corinthians 13. He says, love does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil. Wow. But he did not mean you must be blind to that wrong. True forgiveness of a wrong does not pretend that wrong is not there. See, the Greek word for wrong is translated, watch this, evil. Because it is evil, it must be acknowledged. And being blind to it is not what total forgiveness means. You know what else total forgiveness is not? It's not forgetting. Oh man, some people say, well, I got to forgive and forget. I'm not sure that that's humanly possible. You see, only God has the power to forget. See, when someone says we must forgive and forget, I understand what they mean. They equate true forgiveness with the wiping the memory clean of the event, but to forget isn't very realistic. I'm just being honest. It's my conversation, my podcast. Maybe you got a different opinion. I encourage you. Start a podcast. See, I don't think to forget is very realistic. It's usually impossible. It's impossible to forget meaningful events in our lives, positive or negative. It's impossible. My wife, you know her story. If you have never heard my wife's testimony, you should listen to it, and maybe we'll just put that up on the podcast one day. You can never forget meaningful events in your lives, both positive and negative. And sometimes trauma can cause amnesia, but that is not a healthy form of forgetting. The only cure for amnesia is to remember the details. Oof. See, love does not erase our memories. It's actually a greater demonstration of greater grace when we are fully aware of what happened and we still choose to forgive. You better replay that. You see, deep hurts may never be eradicated as though they never happened. The truth is, they did happen. But total forgiveness is not dwelling on them. Total forgiveness is refusing to be paralyzed to my future because of what happened to me in my past. Ooh, y'all should write that down. God sent His Son to die for sin. Think about that. It's incredible. And so you know what forgiveness is not? It's not refusing to take wrong seriously. Some people think that in order to forgive, they must dismiss the wrong or pass it off as insignificant. Let's use that word. I like that word. That's only avoiding the problem. Let me just be a good pastor and a good counselor to you. The greater victory for the one who is doing the forgiveness is to face up to the seriousness, even the wickedness of what happened, and still forgive. This is what God does. See, there's no sin too great for God to forgive. Let me say that clearly. There's no sin too great for God to forgive. He knows exactly what it is that we have done. He knows exactly what it is that He is forgiving. And so He sent His Son to die for sin. Christ's death proves just how serious sin is. God doesn't pass off sin as inconsequential, yet He forgives it totally. We cannot truly forgive until we see clearly the offense we're forgiving and understand its seriousness. So forgiveness is not refusing, number 9, to take the wrong seriously. And number 10, forgiveness is not pretending that we are not hurt. Oh, well, I'm blessing somebody right now, because I know, man, some of y'all think you got to put on a face, because, man, I got to forgive. And inside your heart that you're living hypocritical, and that brings condemnation into your life. And it's all because we don't understand what forgiveness truly is not. You don't want to tell? Let me tell you what the last one, number 10 here. Forgiveness is not pretending we are not hurt. It's ridiculous to think that we got to keep an upper lip when we've been injured. We're human. It's what we do with our humanity that's important. God let David know how hurt he was over David's sin of adultery and murder, didn't He? Sure He did. He didn't pretend to not be hurt by it. David was a man after God's own heart, yet God was impartial with him. Jesus was hurt when He was hit in the face by the high priest official. Sure He was. And in John chapter 18, I believe it's verse 23, Jesus answered him and said, "If I have spoken evil, bear witness to that evil. But if well, why do you strike me?" Wow. See, total forgiveness is not pretending we aren't hurt. Even Jesus was hurt. He's like, why? Why did you hit me? He was able to say after all of that, though, "Father, forgive them." Listen, guys, that's an incredible thought process. Today, to walk through 10 things quickly that forgiveness is not. I want to encourage you. Replay this podcast. Listen to it very carefully again and again and again. Because what forgiveness is not is just as great a portion of the foundation of forgiveness as what forgiveness is. And how could we truly know how to live in forgiveness until we know what it also is not? And I hope that this has blessed you today in the sense that it helps you process this topic. And I hope it generates some ideas and thoughts inside of you, because, man, I promise you there are going to be some challenging conversations over this topic. It needs to be said. There are some things that need to be said biblically, theologically, with a biblical perspective, if you will, about forgiveness, instead of religious ideology or traditional views or those type of things. So there may be some religious spirits who are very upset about this conversation today. And that's okay. It won't be the first time I upset a religious spirit, and I promise you it won't be the last. But I know there are some people on here today who are as blessed as I am with the confidence that, at least I know now, biblically what forgiveness is not. And I can build the rest of my thought process on forgiveness off of a clear foundation. Man, I hope this has blessed you. Thank you so much for listening today. I need you to do me a favor. You got to like and share and subscribe. Promote this podcast on your social media. I don't know. I'm just a little podcaster. I don't know how to do this stuff. But I know with your help, we can do it together, because I know that there are a lot of people who need to hear the conversation that we're having over these topics. And if you share them, who knows? Somebody listen to this on their way to work or on the treadmill, or, maybe in a time of desperation, a title jumps out to them and they get it. So today's been a great conversation, and I really love you, and I thank God for all of you. Listen, I love you, so does Jesus, and I'll see you on the next episode.